Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joe Ganis with the Biamp marketing team, and I'm thrilled to welcome everyone to this webinar on connecting Evoko Workplace to Microsoft 365. If you've got any questions, go ahead and shoot them in the chat or just shoot me a question as Mike presents with us, so that way we can answer you by the end of the webinar. Our technical support supervisor, Mike Neufer, will be reviewing how to add and configure rooms so that meeting spaces can be easily reserved and the correct meeting information is displayed on the Naso devices. If you were at InfoComm last week, I hope you had a tremendous show and were able to stop by the Biamp booth. We were excited to announce the Evoko Naso and Clio devices are now compatible with Google Workspace, in addition to Microsoft Outlook. And we introduced a slew of exciting new products like the Parlay VBC 2800 all-in-one conferencing bar and the VIDI 280 standalone conferencing camera, among many others. You can always visit our website, biamp.com, to learn more about our new products. It's a beautiful day here in Portland, and I hope you're all enjoying the summer. Okay, let's get on with our most important topic of the day, connecting Evoko Workplace to Office 365. All on you, Mike.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. Welcome, everyone. This is part 2 of our Evoko Workplace series. Some of you may have been here for the first series that we had, where we talked a little bit about what the Evoko Workplace encompasses and really how to get some desks installed. So for today, before we jump into the agenda, I'd like to just kind of recap that first session for those of you that are here in attendance that did not get a chance to see that. That is actually recorded on the Biamp marketing page, so if you do want to catch that video, you can. But I just wanted to recap what we did in that webinar. And what we did in that webinar was we kind of learned the basics, right? We learned how to create an Evoko Workplace account. We went ahead and we built our organization. And by that, I mean we started adding some buildings, some locations, and some floors. And we went ahead and we added a number of desks in different parts of the buildings. And we uploaded some floor plans, and I showed all of you how easy it was to actually navigate the Evoko Workplace once you've established it. So what we're gonna talk about today, we have a full agenda today on how to really connect the Evoko Workplace cloud to Microsoft 365. But what I wanted to really touch base on too was kind of what's changed since we've had that first webinar. And I know Joe touched base on a little bit of it before this webinar started, but I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that actually have either changed or been introduced since the last time we talked. So. Like Joe mentioned, we introduced the Microsoft and Google kind of integration with the Evoko Naso at InfoComm. We also announced that there would be exportable insights and updates to some of the data and analytics on the back page. We'll dive into that if we have some time today outside of Microsoft 365. We also stated that the overview screen was no longer in beta, for those of you that are familiar with the overview screen. And the entire user experience for both administrators, configurators, and users is now pretty much streamlined in one simple mobile application. So those are some of the things we've introduced since the last time we've talked. Some of them we'll be able to cover today, in addition to the agenda we did have planned. But largely today, what we will be talking about is Microsoft 365 in general. Okay, so when we talk about the Evoko Workplace and the Evoko Cloud system, you know, what's changed with the way that this cloud system now talks to Microsoft. And what's really exciting is there's no more email addresses or passwords or admin email addresses needed for app authentication. Everything is done now simply through the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. And for those of you that don't know, Microsoft Entra is pretty much a cloud-based identity and access management service that organizations use for secure authentication when you're trying to connect Exchange to a third party. What Entra provides is features like conditional access, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and SSO. I'm sure all of you are familiar with some of those terms. And we've also changed, the way that we approach and connect to Microsoft. So there's really only 3 values needed when you attempt to kind of connect cloud to cloud per se. We'll cover those 3 values today and how you go about obtaining those 3 values from Microsoft. And then a little bit later, we'll explore the updated version of the Evoko Workplace that we showed at InfoComm, along with some room connectivity and some desks associated with it too. So we're going to jump right into Microsoft. I know we only have about an hour today, but I can assure you we're going to get a little nerdy, but if you just bear with me, this stuff is pretty easy to understand. And it's actually exciting because this is kind of the new protocol that Microsoft is actually asking third-party apps to use when registering applications within their environment. So it's great to see Biamp kind of leading the way with these enterprise type deployments and protocols that are used when we're connecting clouds together. So the first item I'd like to talk about today is what's called an Entra tenant ID. The Entra tenant ID is a unique identifier that's assigned to an organization's Microsoft Cloud environment. So it's typically, the organization's Azure environment. They have what's called a tenant ID. I want you to think of this as kind of the company's digital address in the cloud, okay? So it's a destination that has been kind of approved, and it's like, hey, this is associated with this specific customer within the Azure kind of atmosphere. And it represents, your company or institution to help manage their resources, their users, and services within a tenant. If a customer is using Microsoft 365 in the cloud, they always have what's called a tenant ID, okay? Next, what I'd like to talk about is the Entra client ID. This is also known as what's called the application ID. And it's a unique identifier, for a specific registered application within a customer's tenant. Okay, so for example, we would make an Entra client ID or application ID for Evoko within the Exchange Admin Center of the end user, and that client ID would be unique to just the Evoko Workplace application itself. If the customer or the end user would add some other third-party apps onto their cloud infrastructure, it's most likely that those applications would also need something along the lines of a client ID. Okay. And lastly, the third piece of information that we're going to talk about is what's called the Entra secret, client secret. Okay. And think of this as kind of like a password for your application that you're registering with Exchange. It's a secure key that the app uses to always prove its identity when accessing and requesting tokens. So it's important that this key is kept confidential as it could grant app access to resources on behalf of users. So these are the 3 big things that are required now when you go about linking the Evoko Workplace application to Microsoft. And what I'd like to show all of you today is kind of where you can go about in getting those 3 values, or where customers would navigate to within the Entra Admin Center to find those 3 values. So just give me 1 second here. I'm going to switch some screens. And on this page, what you'll see is I actually have access to the Entra Admin Center, okay? And think of this as being, the web console for, IT admins or Exchange admins within a certain organization. There's no secret information here. This is simply just a dummy environment with Biamp demo. So there's nothing here that's, would be secret information or that I couldn't screen share. But this is basically the landing page for an IT admin or Exchange admin within a company. And what we ask is that you walk over to applications here and you do what's called a new registration. All right. So I've gone ahead and I've actually registered within this dummy Microsoft organization, the Evoko Workplace already. Okay. But what I want to show you is how easy it is to register a new application. Or attach a new application within your environment on behalf of customers. So if I navigate up here to new registration, I'm greeted with an option that says, please provide a name, for this application. In best practices, it's best to put in the name of, what you're actually registering to the tenant. So if it's the Evoko Workplace or the Biamp Workplace, it's always best to leave a note there kind of indicating what this registration is for. And what I'm going to label this with is just the date of this exercise. So I'm familiar with this app when I go back to reference it. If I press this register button, it'll take a second for my application to get created. But what you'll notice right off the start here, once I land on the essentials page, is I'm already provided both my client ID here and my tenant ID that I need to actually link to the Evoko Workplace. So just by registering the application within the Azure cloud here, it grants you the tenant ID and the application ID that we are going to need at a later step when we link. I will show you that shortly. The last value that we would need is actually what's called a secret ID. That's the third value we covered. And how we would go about navigating and getting that idea is if we click on certificates and secrets here, I can actually add a new client secret. So when I click on new client secret, it prompts me for a description. I'm just going to call this Evoko Workplace. And when I add this description, it's going to go ahead and actually provide me with a value here for my client ID. Okay, so just in a matter of minutes, I've actually been able to get a hold of the three values that I now need to essentially link my Microsoft 365 environment to my Evoko Workplace. Okay, so just to recap here, if I go back to app registrations, I can see all of my applications. Here's the app we just registered just a few moments ago. And here's an application I registered, it seems to be maybe yesterday or a couple weeks ago. And if I open those apps on the Essentials page, I'm actually shown again the application ID and the client ID for the respective application. So right now I have all three pieces of information that I need. And what I'd like to show you now is navigating over to the Evoko Workplace here and showing how I would actually input and add those three pieces of information to the Evoko Workplace. Okay, so this should all be familiar with all of you. We covered this in the first webinar. We created a couple organizations to add some desks. And right now on my landing page, you can tell that I am an administrator for two different companies. We have one company called Biamp Demo on Microsoft, and then we have one company just called Biamp Demo. If I navigate to Biamp Demo on Microsoft on the admin dashboard, all of this should look familiar to you. We covered all of these steps in the previous webinar. I highly recommend you guys watch that. There's a ton of good information in there. But if I scroll down to my settings here and I go to organization, what you'll notice that's new within the organization is what we refer to as calendar settings, okay? And under calendar settings, we have the option to effortlessly sync your schedule with any type of calendar integration for a more organized and efficient way to manage your time. So if I click on Add Source, I'm actually greeted with two different options that I can actually configure my cloud system with, okay? Today, what we're going to cover is the Microsoft integration, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on Microsoft. And I'm prompted with a dialog box here with three values. The same three values that we just covered within the Microsoft Entra Admin Center would actually be input here to make the connection to Microsoft. So what I'm going to do is I have on my clipboard over here, I have those values copied down. I'm just going to go ahead and copy those keys. Here's my client ID, and then here's my secret. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check my life away here and say I have read the text above. So I'm going to press save. And I get a great message here saying, hey, calendar source successfully added. This is saying that it's syncing. Okay, so what this is doing is this could take about 5-10 minutes for the system to actually sync to Microsoft. But what I've done to kind of save some time is I've made an organization here already that's synced to the actual Microsoft backend. So if I navigate back to organization on this one, you can see that I'm actually logged in and syncing with Microsoft. Now, this is telling me that I'm connected. I can go ahead and start navigating to my rooms. I can start adding rooms. So maybe if I wanted to put in, meeting room, now that it's syncing with Microsoft, it actually finds some of the rooms that I have available. So I see quiet room, I see visitor room, I see conference room. Let's actually make this quiet room, and we'll link this to the quiet room email, and we'll add maybe a capacity of 2, and we'll add this to the main floor. I'll add that room. I'll also add another one. So let's go up here, and I think I saw a visitor room that was being pulled from Exchange. Yep, visitor room. That one looks like it can fit about 5 people, and we'll put that on the main office floor and add the room. So from this view, I've added a couple of rooms here. You can see I've had other rooms added here, which is really great. But in a matter of seconds, I've gone ahead and I've actually connected to Microsoft. And in a matter of minutes, I'm actually able to sync my rooms, okay? From here, what we've also introduced was a way to actually tie specific licenses to specific rooms. So we didn't have that prior. So if I navigate to, let's say, this visitor room that I've just added, I went ahead and I've activated the trial license here. So this is saying, hey, what kind of a license would you like to, apply to this room? I'm going to go ahead and apply the trial license that I did back in the first webinar and assign it to that room. And what it'll do is it'll make that room actually public and available for users to book. I can go ahead and I can upload an image of that space right here, which is also something we've introduced. Maybe I wanted to upload an image of what the room actually looks like, or the contents maybe of what's in the room. This is something we've introduced on the mobile app that we'll talk about in a few minutes, where users can actually get a visual representation of the space that they're about to book. So right now, the UC room would be the name or room that would show up in the mobile application, or vice versa on my Naso panel. And then this would actually be the calendar email that's associated with that room from Microsoft 365. Right now, I could book I could book this room from Microsoft, or I could book this on the panel, and all of my meetings would actually start syncing with this specific calendar. Great. So I go back to room booking. Let's jump through room booking settings real quick. We didn't get a chance to do this last time on the first webinar because we only covered desk booking. But a lot of the settings are very similar when it comes to room booking as compared to desk booking. We can book. We can limit the amount of days in advance that our users can actually book these rooms. We can actually limit how long specific rooms can be booked for. Same thing as we applied with our desks on the desk side. We can also set the default booking hour. If somebody wants to walk up to the display and book a meeting, or book a meeting within the mobile application, we could set that to be a default 1 hour, or any kind of time increment that we would like. And we could also change the check-in duration. So for those of you that are familiar with the check-in function on the desk booker, we could do the same thing and apply it to rooms. There's a couple of more settings that we can apply here. We can allow remote check-in. When we first released the check-in feature, we required individuals to physically be at the display and interact with the panel. With this cloud-hosted system, we've introduced the ability for users to be able to do that through the mobile application. We'll check that out in a minute, okay? And then we've also allowed users to scan QR codes. If there is no physical device at that room, you can place a QR code there, users can scan it, and that would actually open directly up to the Evoko Workplace application. We've also introduced RFID functionality and access control badging with 2.0 as well. So you can use your badges and RFID to perform majority of the booking functions and the reporting functions directly on the display. But largely, all of these coincide with the same type of desk booking settings that we've been accustomed to since we released the Evoko Workplace. Okay. At this point, what I'd like to do, since we've linked Microsoft, I'd like to actually show all of you the mobile application that we have running live here that we also showed at the InfoCon. Okay. And so from this this mobile app, I'd like to show all of you, some of the interactions and what it looks like for our users to interact with the app. Okay. So when we're logged in, we're greeted with this page here that shows all of my bookings for the month. I can scroll and I can see all of my bookings for the day. There's a couple of buttons down here at the bottom. We call those Today, Workplace, and Directory. But what I really want to focus on right now is this green box right here that says New Meeting. If I select this arrow here, I'm presented with a couple of different options. I can scan a QR code, I can book a desk, I can book a room, or I can make a new meeting without a room if I necessarily want to. It's often sometimes we need to make ad hoc meetings where we don't necessarily need a space. And this will actually allow me to book a meeting without including a room and to contact my colleagues if need be. So if I navigate back to the main page here and I navigate over to Workplace, I'm actually greeted with all of the resources that I have available. So if we move from top to bottom here, you can see I'm looking at my main office here. I'm greeted with an ability to filter between my needs. So if I tap on this icon in the top right-hand corner, I'm prompted and it asks me, hey, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a desk or are you looking for a room? Keep in mind, we've just added some rooms to our organization. And now we're talking to Office 365. So I'm going to select room here, and it prompts me for a couple more details. It says, when do you want this, this room to be available? Well, I want this to be available now, and I want this to be available for at least 5 people. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and press Find Available, and this will list all of the rooms that meet the criteria that I've actually just searched for. So it's found a room called UC room. It's found a room called BYOM room. I see boardroom and huddle room. These look like the rooms we just added from Office 365. So let me tap on boardroom here. I like that one. When I tap on boardroom, I'm greeted with a ton of information here. I can see exactly where the floor is located. It's on floor 1 in the main office building. I can see that the room here can handle 6 people and that it's currently unoccupied. I also get a ton of information around the resources that are available within that room. And I'm also greeted here by this picture indicating what I should expect the room to look like on my arrival. I can also toggle up top here. So if I want to toggle between the actual room view and the floor view, I can kick over and see where that room is actually located on the floor 1 in the main office. And I can quickly toggle back over to the room details there as well. If I navigate further down, I'm presented with a couple of different options here. I can book a new meeting, or I can actually add this room to an existing meeting. So if I go ahead and I tap Book New Meeting, I can provide the meeting a title, hey, friendly touch base, and we'll do that from 120 to 220. And I can actually remove the room from that meeting if I wanted to. So if I realized I didn't need that space, I could remove the room. And I could also make this a private meeting. So if I actually enable this information or this toggle here, it won't show the subject or the organizer of the meeting. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do confirm meeting. So I get a success message here. I got an email there saying, hey, my meeting has probably been accepted. But I also have an option here to toggle down to my view agenda. If I go back to agenda, it sees the meeting that I've booked for today. And because my check-in functionality has been turned on, it's prompting me to actually check in for the meeting. So if I go ahead and hit that check-in button, I'm now checked into the space. And the boardroom that got that meeting within Office 365 now shows that I am occupying that space. Cool. So I just wanted to run through kind of that real quick on how we can see the workplaces. If you have desks added as well, you can see desks in this view. I've actually removed them from this, this organization. But right now, what we're looking at is just rooms, and I wanted to kind of share how users would interact with that. And then lastly, on the far left, we have directory. So directory over here. Think of this as being like a way for you to see your colleagues and where they are throughout the day. So if I wanted to search for a colleague, or if my colleague was sharing their information, I could actually select Daniel here and go to open details. And if Daniel had any bookings for the day, they would actually show here. So I can see the desks that he's booked at, or maybe the rooms that he has meetings in. And I can maybe tailor my schedule to be near him if I need to touch base with him, or if we're working, collaboratively. Last thing I want to show in regards to the mobile app here is the profile section has changed a little bit. So we have a couple of different options that we've now added to the profile section. We can set which day we would like our week to start. Some users were giving us that feedback that they would prefer to start the day themselves on the week. You can also toggle back and forth between light mode and dark mode. If you want to go dark mode, you can, or you can kick it back to the system view. I prefer the light view. And then our organizations now will all be listed here. So if you're part of multiple organizations, or if you're you're maybe an administrator of, let's say, a handful of organizations, you can quickly and efficiently kind of bounce back and forth between all of them here. And then what's really exciting about this application was, we've introduced the ability to configure and set up both devices. I know in our previous webinar, we talked largely around, only having the ability of doing the Clio Desk Manager within the app. But now at InfoComm, we announced that you can do the Naso Room Manager through the Evoko Workplace application here, and the configuration is very similar to how it was for the Clio. You can pick how you want the device to get on the network. You can select Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and then you can do a local handshake using NFC to get the configuration to the device. But that's pretty much everything around the mobile application that I wanted to share here. But it's exciting to kind of see some of the new updates we've introduced since we've last talked. Right now, we could jump back to the Evoko Workplace Admin Center, and what I'd like to do is kind of show you what what an organization would look like now that it's synced. So I know I said it took a couple minutes for the organization to actually sync with Exchange, but you can see that it's prompted us that it's now synced and it's seeing all of our rooms, and we're good to go. So right now we have 5 rooms added. What's really nice to to kind of show is these organizations here. If I go back to my profile, these are both tied back to the same tenant within Microsoft 365. So what this clearly shows is that we're able to have isolated workplaces for the same companies or same tenants or same domains. If certain companies, let's say, in Sweden, didn't necessarily want to share their offices with their counterpartner here in the States, we can have separate workplaces with the same tenants and same domains. That's really exciting and not something we were able to do before. But right now, I know I'm about a half hour in. I covered largely, how we obtain those 3 values with the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. I hope that kind of cleared up some things for all of you.
If you have any additional questions about the Evoko Workplace, please reach out to Mike or myself, or visit us at biamp.com. We're on Cornerstone Technical Support. And you can also sign up for our newsletter at biamp.com and stay up to date on the latest important news from Biamp. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. Thank you.